Roll call, please.
Stanislaus County Alternate Member David Lehman.
Here.
City of Ceres Vice Chair Doug Dudford.
Here.
City of Houston Member Dominique Remo. City of Modesto Chair Lopez.
Here.
City of Newman Thomas Spankowski. City of Oakdale Representative Jerry Ramar. City of Patterson Representative Fernando Ulloa. City of Riverbank Marisela Garcia.
Here.
City of Turlock Reagan Wilson. And City of Waterford Mike Pitcock.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Going on to item 3, is there any remote participation today? I believe so. Go to item 4, public comments. This is for any member of the public to address the committee on items that are not on the agenda. Are there any public comments? Seeing none, we'll move to item 5A, motion to approve the Management and Finance Committee minutes of March 5th, 2025. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve. Stanislaus County.
Got a motion by Stanislaus County and a second by Houston. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to 6A, a motion to recommend the policy board adopt by resolution the federal fiscal year 2027 to 2030 funding round, congestion mitigation and air quality, and surface transportation block grant guidelines adoption.
Yes, hi, Jose Luis Cáceres here. I'm your Director of Programming and Program Delivery at StanCog. This item has come before this body multiple times. This is one of the last times. This is the adoption of the 2027 through 2030 funding round guidelines. Blake Dunford's name is up there because Blake is the staff person who did the most work on this project. Next slide. So some background that, again, I'm repeating. I understand you've probably heard this already a bunch. 2 funds are programmed through this funding round. The Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Fund, or CMAQ, and the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, STBG. Next slide. We have a fund estimate that is quite large. This is, and I'm not exaggerating, this is the largest funding round that StanCog has ever conducted in its history. We may never conduct a funding round. Well, it may be a long time before we ever have a funding round this big ever again as well. And that is because we're programming 4 years, where normally we'd program 2 years. So 27, 28, 29, 30. It's 4 years of funding. The reason for 4 years is we're trying to catch up. There's been different delays and hiccups over the years that have led us to a place where we're only programmed through 2026. That's a federal fiscal year. We're in 2025 right now. So we're only programmed 2 years out. We have a 4-year tip. We need to fill that tip up with transportation projects. We need our local agencies to know how much money they're going to be getting from StanCog, not just today or tomorrow, but for the next 4 years past that. So we're catching up. On top of that, as part of the catch up, we went and swept up all the change from the couch cushions. We have prior year funding that we're programming. Total of $96 million and change, split almost evenly between CMAQ and STBG. Next slide. Okay, now the CMAQ breakdown, the $45.8 million is made up of $41 million competitive, and then there's this off the top. The reason for the off the top is our Stannis Cruise program, it's an excellent cost-effective program. And we're asking to program $1 million a year for Stannis Cruise, which is actually a haircut from what we've given it traditionally in the past, for a total of $4 million. And then Stan RTA, I think it's about what they've normally received at $200,000 a year, adding up to $800,000. So that's $4.8 million off the top. Sounds like a lot, but that's 4.8 off of a 4-year program. Next slide. The STBG distribution is going to show up any second, and there's 200,000 off the top that we're programming. This is for your staff here at StanCog for programming. The PPM stands for Planning, Programming, and Monitoring. That's 200,000 a year. That's about what we've been doing, except it's bumped up a little bit for inflation. A total of 800,000. Sounds like a lot. That's 4 years worth of 200,000 each year. That allows for about 50 million left for competitive. Next slide. So new this cycle are fund categories. So a little bit of history. Our funding rounds in the past, we would give out STBG in a formula basis. population lane miles, straight kind of, not checks, but reimbursement to our local agencies. And those amounts, when done in 2-year amounts, really did not add up to very much for cities and counties to get. It was enough, but not large amounts. And then CMAQ, we also capped those at pretty low amounts. So StanCog for years has been an agency that delivers small CMAQ projects and small STBG projects. When we program 96 million, we don't have to program small. In fact, small ends up being a pain. If you're a local agency, that's like submitting 15 applications for small projects. We have an opportunity to go big. So we asked our local agencies through workshops and TAC meetings, and also we came to this body, well, what do we mean by big? How big? Well, the large category was agreed to at 5 million. You could request up to 5 million for a large category project. Why have 2 categories? Because maybe you don't want to interchange competing with the sidewalk. There's 2 different sorts of categories of projects going on. How much it would go into each side was a point of debate, and we settled at a total of 21 million of CMAQ and about 20 million of STVG set aside for large category projects, where they could request up to 5 million with 3 applications per agency. On the small category side, you could request up to 2 million. We put 20 million of CMAQ in there and 30 million of STVG. So plenty to still do road rehabilitation and bike ped and transit projects and whatnot. We did the math. That ends up being, you could get about you could get 2 to 4 CMAQ projects, and you could get 4 STBG projects at the max request. And for the small category, you could get 10 CMAQ projects and 15 STBG projects, again, in the small category request. We don't know how much they will request, but that's about the number of projects we would be programming as a region. The reason for the range of CMAQ is transit. We aren't sure what will show up for transit, but we'll get into it. Next slide. The fund guidelines have an exception, and that's for the city of Turlock. When we have a maximum limit of how much each agency can apply for, we're reminded that the city of Turlock is 2 agencies in one. They are a transit operator and a city, so they're allowed to apply for more projects. They can have 1 additional large and 1 additional small application, providing they're doing both transit and city projects. And then the other exception is for transit operating assistance. We're allowing a larger max, 3 million per year for operating assistance with a maximum of 3 years. A little word about this. This is not to pay for existing transit operating assistance. And the reason why is our STBG funds don't pay for any operating assistance. It's just not eligible. It's a capital program. CMAQ will pay for operating assistance, but only if you're going to do something that that reduces pollution. An existing transit line is doing what an existing transit line does. It continues to help people get to and from destinations. To reduce emissions, you actually have to get cars off the road. So transit expansion and new transit service is what we're talking about. So new transit service, transit expansion, we capped it at 3 million per year, max 3 years, so 9 million cap, where everyone else has a 5 million cap for regular capital projects. Next slide. So there's some additional changes. I'm going to go through these sort of fast because I don't want to belabor this, but we added more people to the scoring committee. We added tiebreaker criteria in case there should be ties. We made some changes to the guidelines and applications. We basically made them shorter and tighter. And then we also clarified some areas. This is our 2nd time doing a completely competitive funding round. So we got some constructive feedback and we responded to it. And our reviewers also said, oh, this is not very clear. We clarified things that weren't clear. Next slide. I think we're in the final guidelines. Last month was draft guidelines. We did some further changes since if you were just looking at last month's. We clarified what is eligible for transit operating assistance. And it's just what I said, new and expanded. This is not to pay for existing. There was some confusion before. And then some minor clarifications. Next slide. So the schedule, where are we? March has come and gone. We are now in the schedule of bringing final guidelines to the policy board. Immediately after, we're going to release a call for projects. And we're not giving our applicants 1 month, 2 months to apply. 5 months, did I count that right? 5 months. It's a long time, and our agencies need that long time. And we listened loud and clear. So that means we'll bring recommendations to our policy board in December. And then we hope to turn around and amend $96 million worth of projects in January into the FTIP. Next slide. Now, any questions? And if I can't answer them, I might have Blake come up.
All right, any questions of staff?
Sir, the numbers you're using, you shows the CDBG and everything. Overall numbers was 98 or $96 million, but you have on the first one that's available, it just shows 40.7, and then you said 4.8 was going to transit or Stan Cruise and Stan RTA. Those two numbers don't add up to 96 million. So where's the rest of that money go?
I think we need to go back a couple slides. It should all add up. If it doesn't, I'm going to be a little embarrassed. Let's go back to the beginning. There. All right, one more slide. So 96 million is a rounded amount. That's the sum of 45.8 million STBG and 45.8 CMAC, 50.5 STBG. I'm just going to write this down. 45.8 and 50.5. If we agree those two numbers add up to 96.3,
Sure.
then we'll break it down. Let's go see the CMAC breakdown. CMAC breakdown, 45.8. These are rounded numbers. We're trying to not show you all the decimals. 4.8 million is the sum of Stan RTA and Stannis Cruise. And then when you take 4.8 million away from 45.8, you're left with 41 million. So that math checks. All right, next slide. STBG, and your question might have been about STBG. So 50.5 is what we agreed is the amount available for STBG. When you remove 800,000 from 50.5, you're left with 49.7. Yeah, that math checks out, right? Yes?
Mhm.
So that's how we get to 50.5 and 45.8. Did you have issue with those or the next breakdown?
Go to the next.
All right, next breakdown. This one?
Yes, sir. So 21 and 19.7 adds up to basically 40.7, and then 20 and 30 is 50, so that's 90.7.
All right, so 40, let's do the, because what you want to make sure is you add up like and like. So CMAC is 21 million of CMAC
I'm
in the
just
large
going after the
category.
full 96.
Oh, all right, well, I'm just gonna still take this in bite-sized pieces. 'Cause that my brain handles bite-size. 21 million of CMAC in the large category and 20 million of CMAC in the small category adds up to 40.1, which that sounds familiar. Do we agree that that was on the slide 2 slides ago? 40.1 million?
Sure.
There's 40, that's CMAC, that's 41 million. And did I just say 40.1? 41, thank you, 41. Thank you, 41. All right, so CMAC math checks. STBG. So STBG is the sum of 19.7 and 30, which is 49.7? 49.7?
The other 800 is,
Yeah, and the 800 is not part of the competitive part of the funding.
we're fine.
All right.
I love
And
those.
it's, I appreciate this is confusing. In fact, towards the end of the meeting, at the end of the item, I'm going to just talk a little bit about confusing as a topic. Actually, I think we are in the end. So I'm a little concerned because our policy board has not yet seen this presentation. They've had a full agenda the last couple months. And as much as possible, I would appreciate if the city managers could take this information. We can share this PowerPoint so that you could help brief the policy board when they see this for the first time. If it's complicated for us, complicated for them. More questions?
Any other questions?
Is transit eligible for STBG or just a CMAC pot?
Absolutely. In the guidelines, for every type of scoring, there's like the transit equivalent. So state of good repair, roads can have a state of good repair, buses can have a state of good repair. Now, what is eligible is capital costs only. So you can buy a bus, you can buy a facility, you can, the same way you can also pay for road rehabilitation, only capital.
Michael like this. So is LTF going to be competitive too then for roads?
I am not the LTF programming person.
I already know the answer. I'm being a Weisenheimer.
I'll take all sorts of questions,
All
including
right,
Dave Lehman.
all right.
We left LTF in the back.
This item doesn't pertain to the LTF. We will go ahead and bring this back around. Any other questions? All right, any comments from the public? All right, bring it back to the committee for a motion.
I'll make the motion series.
I have a motion from Series, a second from Riverbank. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the motion carries.
Mr. Chair, if I may make a comment. Actually, when this item was being discussed by internally first with staff, as Jose Luis did indicate, that, as many of you have been around here, we have done programming in 2 years and cycles, and we've done our projects. I was a little nervous, and this is why he had this variety, he and Blake, with workshops with your staff, which I appreciated because all of you are the ones that are implementing these projects, right? So you would know what you have in the horizon and what's in the future. But as many of you know, what we're dealing right now with our new administration at the federal level, there's a lot of this discussion of what's programmed, what's approved, what's not. We're getting emails, and just as a matter of fact, 2 days ago, Jean was getting emails from the Federal Transit Administration on the transit and the grant programs, because a lot of it they have in grants. And if things are not sealed, approved, this administration is taking money away. So at first I was a little hesitant because I'm like, well, we don't know what our projects are for the future, but I appreciate in a way that your staff took the time with Jose Luis and Blake to really look at this, because I think it's better for us to program than to be sorry down the road, and at least we can maybe secure our funding that way. And then we can move it later if you guys need to.
Great. All right, we'll move on to 6B, motion to recommend the policy board approve by resolution the federal fiscal year 2027 to 2030 funding round early programming.
This looks nearly identical, except it's got the 2 words, early programming. And picking back a little bit on what Rosa said, there is a chance that in California, if not this year, then next year, we could be facing something called a rescission, where Congress says, hey, if you haven't spent it, we're going to take it. Don't worry, we'll give it back to you in the next Transportation Act, but it'll come back through a filter of all the new programs. It's a sort of a use it or lose it situation. We're a little nervous about that. If we have an opportunity to program projects early and obligate them early, we want to take it. Next slide. So those off the top amounts, 4.8 million of CMAQ, of the 45.8, and then next slide, the 800,000 of the 5.5 million of STBG. These amounts do not require that we do the 5-month application process. Our policy board, the day they adopt the guidelines, could also adopt to program these funds, which means then we could turn around, put them in the FTIP, and then we could have our fingers on the trigger if necessary to obligate these dollars if we saw that there might be a chance of losing them. Next slide. So the request is to, after the board programs or approves the guidelines, for the policy board to also program 800,000 to Stan RTA Rideshare, 4 million to StanCog, Stannis Cruise, and 800,000 of SCBG to planning, programming, monitoring. Next slide. Again, any questions?
Any questions, staff?
Jose Luis, do you anticipate being able to EPSP the grants that are awarded? Like when would we be able to EPSP that money forward? Meaning
I love these.
move it forward.
So in case people didn't track, Dave just dropped a tough acronym on us, EPSP. That stands for, it's one of those acronyms, once you spell it out, you still don't know. It stands for Expedited Project Selection Procedures. It basically means that you have this 4-year document. You could think of it as a budget, but it's not. It's a program. It's a list of projects with funds associated to them. And you would think that projects in year 1 would happen in year 1, and projects in year 2 and year 2, and so on. And that's the way you might do things if things were tight. Like our Measure L program, we have a strategic plan that shows when funds will be available year by year. Funds are not tight for us in federal funds. We're actually sitting on a large amount of federal CMAQ and STBG. If $40 million worth of projects were ready to obligate today, I could obligate all of them today. And if another, because that's just what we have. If another $40 million worth of projects came in and said, we also want to obligate today, now that would be the whole funding round coming up, right? I would say, hold that thought, let me make a couple phone calls. I only need to call maybe 2 regions and I could come up with another 40 million because other regions are also sitting on large apportionment balances and they're also worried about that rescission I was telling you about. So to answer your question, this money is ready as soon as anyone wants it. Yes, we can use expedited project selection procedures. If at some point we start running out of money, which is a great problem to have, I can go get it interest-free from other regions. They owe us favors and they frankly selfishly want to loan it out to get it off their books. So deliver, giddy up. I want to see these funds obligated so badly, yes.
We're talking about early programming. What's the normal protocol?
So normal protocol is you do a funding round, you do a call for projects, give everybody so many months to apply, and then at the time of the policy board, you program all of your funds kind of all at the same time. Normally we don't have 5 months for applications. It might be 2.5 months. We doubled the application time. So waiting 2.5 months is not a big deal usually. And also normal protocol is an MPO is usually programmed out 4 years already, and they're adding year 5 and year 6, and they're kind of catching up to it as they do that. We are an MPO that's not programmed as far as it is normally, and we're also doing a large funding round with kind of a long lead time.
And is it your thought process, once we program it early, that you're going to EPSP all the funds into the first year?
Potentially, yes.
So all those monies would be sitting with StanCog and or whatever, right, Santa Cruz?
So the money sits in the federal treasury, awaiting invoices that get repaid on a reimbursement basis. If you,
Yeah.
if you perfect, if you,
76,
yeah.
I got that.
All right. So when you obligate, you just basically, you lock those dollars up, making it impossible for them to be rescinded, clawed back.
But if you pull them all into the first year, your E76 generally has to be for the entire amount. Are you saying that over that 4 year, you just do incremental requests for reimbursement?
Yeah, you can tell FHW and Caltrans, this 4 million is meant to last us 4 years. So you set your project end date out 5 years out, and then you kind of just keep marching along. Our local agencies don't usually do annual projects. You're doing a capital project that has a series of dates and then it's completed. But Santa Cruz will possibly never end, and so we'll just keep invoicing year after year, and we can add money to it. All those programs are annual kind of planning sort of activities.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I want to add, the transportation development program that we have, it's a must. It's a requirement from the federal government, so we can receive these funds that you all are getting. It's the CMAQ and the S2PG. So it's a requirement. And then, but to answer, also to follow up with the E76, the money is programmed in our federal transportation improvement program, but it's really sits with the state, right? Caltrans District 10, they're your reimbursement. They give you your E76, and then you're working directly with them at that point, so making sure. And one of the dangers, we need to be cognizant, is when Jose Luis is saying, once you get that E76, you must be invoicing to keep active, because, we don't want to be on that inactive list, because then they could actually pull the money away. So we want that'll be another thing that we would just have to be monitoring correctly,
Yeah, I was just curious if it was pre-funded versus funding through reimbursement.
Yeah, no, it's the same process, but you just get it sooner.
So theoretically, the federal government, even though you have it obligated, could theoretically pull it back just because you don't really have achieved the expense.
Well, it's, I think,
So
more challenging.
we people who do my job have been nerding out on this since November. Once the funds are obligated, the federal government has a contractual obligation to fulfill that contract as long as the invoices are coming in for permissible expenses. There have been, in some cases, where the federal government has tried to say, no, they're not going to fulfill contractual obligations. and I believe those are pending in court. So legally, they can't withhold reimbursement. They could, I hate to use the word illegally, but against contractual agreements, they could withhold it. And then our agency would have something to say about that.
I guess this, not getting into the semantics, legally and perceived legality are two different things. So the federal government and the courts have to figure that out.
Yeah, so most of the cases where clawbacks are happening, it's where a discretionary program happened, where the U.S. Department of Transportation issued a list of projects across the United States that are funded, but no contract has been signed on those. And so the same U.S. Department of Transportation can change which projects it's decided are funded. But once the contract has been signed, right, it's like you said, legally or contractually, they're not supposed to claw back those funds.
And an E-76 serves as your notice, yeah, that's your money.
Can we clarify though, maybe I missed this. This is just the 4.8 and the 800,000.
That's right.
What happens if they claw back the other dollars? Then all we're doing is taking the money off the top for essentially administration with no projects that essentially come to fruition. What happens with that money?
Right. So that's the doomsday scenario, and no one likes talking about it very much. So we can talk about what's happened in the past, and what happens in the future may be a repeat of the past or maybe something different. But in the past, what usually happens is at the end of a transportation act, and ours ends in 2026, Congress looks at the amount of money it has to do the next transportation act, and they're very disappointed. They haven't increased the federal gas tax in a long time. They don't actually have money to come up with a new transportation act. And there's this expectation that it always be incrementally bigger. So Congress has actually been doing deficit spending, programming the Transportation Act out of the general fund. But one trick they can do is they can look at the old Transportation Act and they can rescind dollars that had not been obligated in order to create money for the next Transportation Act. Generally, STBG is a no-no. Congress doesn't like to rescind STBG. That's everyone's favorite fund. It's our favorite fund. We love STBG. They don't rescind it. But they are okay with rescinding CMAQ. Not every state gets CMAQ. Not every part of every state gets CMAQ. They see those balances there, like, you don't want to clean up your air? Fine, we'll take that away. And they will rescind other discretionary programs as well. So what might happen is all of the states will be told, hey, this many billion of CMAQ is going away. Whoever hasn't spent it, we're going to take it all from you. And so when that has happened, and that has happened several times in my career, every region gets serious about obligating its CMAQ. If we can't obligate it, we find someone else who can obligate it. You can transfer it to FTA projects. There's a lot of different strategies to get these dollars onto projects or off your books or spent by Caltrans or whatnot. We would do something like that before ever giving any money back to Congress.
I think where I'm struggling is we're rushing to appropriate the management and oversight of a program, which is a small portion of the $96 million, right? So you see what I'm saying? Like, we're obligating our management, but we're not trying to rush to obligate the actual funds that go into programs. I don't know, that seems a little backwards to me.
So when I first came here, I'm approaching my year two. I met with Rosa. I wanted to rush to obligate our programs. But unfortunately, we can't program on a formula basis. We can't just hand out population shares. We have to choose projects using performance metrics. And we didn't decide on performance metrics until the very last funding round. And that was the first time we did it as a region. And when we did it, not everyone was happy with the way it was done. So we made changes. But at that time, I think Dave might even remember, I said, hey, let's double down. Let's program 4 years instead of 2 years. But that's like showing up to a poker game and being asked to put in, like, I don't know, $10,000 instead of $20 ante. Like, it's a bad comparison, but we didn't want to put so much money into the first time doing a competitive program. But now that we've worked out the kinks and we gave the agencies 5 months, everyone is much more willing to program 4 years. So we are working to do just that, to eliminate risk, to eliminate the possibility of rescission. But it does take a while to select $96 million of projects.
I get it, and we're trying to make sure there's equality across the region to spread out these dollars. I got that part, but what I'm struggling with is two things. One, if if there is a clawback of the larger pot, what happens to the money that we did spend for the administration of these programs, both of them, right? So there's got to be some risk, and where is that money going to get paid back from if it's expended? And number two, why are we rushing to expend the administration when we haven't even identified the projects for funding?
Okay, two questions. So what happens if clawback? Projects that have obligated funds are not taken away from anyone else's money, if that makes sense.
But
Sure.
the money for the administration of the programs, this 4.8 and the 800,000 is
Yep.
for the administration of these grants.
No, sorry, to correct.
Well, planning, programming,
One is
monitoring.
for Stannis Cruz.
For him. Blake.
Yeah, 200,000 a year is for Blake and I and
Yeah,
Elizabeth
Their
and your
time to
staff.
do their work.
And we're not going to use that we're not going to
Over
expend
4
it.
years.
We're not going to expend it, yeah, over the years 27 through 2030. And we don't have to expend it until the years 27 through
Okay.
2030. Obligating it is, I feel like we understand. Obligating is just locking up that money from God.
I understand.
So, you could ask the question, why not lock up that money from it being pulled back? We know we're going to be an agency through the year 2030. We will have costs. I would do the same thing for all of our capital projects if they were ready. They cannot materialize readiness overnight.
So is this money off the top money specifically for these two programs or for all administration of your MPO?
It's for these programs, for the, yeah, for the.
For these
FTIP.
two grants?
No,
Not-
so we, no.
Or for the FTIP?
FTIP is,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, so some of this money is also
Planning.
spent for planning, which is
Yeah.
our long-range plan, and we do other planning efforts as well.
Which ties into
And
projects.
again, it's just the 200 per year. Stannis Cruz is the big dog at 1 million a year, totaling 4 million. And that's our van pool program. You could consider our most effective transit service in the region. We get people to ride a van 6 to a vehicle, and they go 50 miles round trip. That's so much better than them driving their own cars. But that incentive program is what is costing 1 million per year for the years 27 through 2030. We already have money for the existing program. Normally, the real issue is why would you lock up future year projects? You might be doing that at the expense of current year projects. And we wouldn't do that if we had current year projects ready to go. If we did, I'd say, why are we locking in 27 through 2030 money? But we don't, those projects aren't going to be ready for a little while.
I get it. My guess is there's a little bit of a risk, and I see what you're trying to do, and there's so much uncertainty at the federal level. We're locking up funds that may never materialize at the larger level, is where I'm coming from.
So the funds,
Oh.
if it may help members of the management and finance, those funds the programs that we have, the TDM, we must have that. So that's not going away, like Jose Luis says. But the other program too, we need staff to do this work. So they're here, and this work will always be needed. So I don't know, the risk is that you're right. I mean, the risk is that we could lose all of it. I don't know. It's just none of us know. But I think what he's trying to do is secure it and program it into our federal transportation improvement program. So it's there. And then if you all decide to accelerate it, then that even makes it even stronger. So it gives you that ability to do that.
I mean,
But
the-
again, we don't,
the analogy is the equivalent to buying your copier paper for the next 2 years if you know that your office supplies budget is going to take a hit or something. We know that we're going to have office supplies, we're going to need
Or
paper.
whether or not you have a copier.
So that's the part of the question I'm not understanding. Are you saying like we might not have a transportation act?
yeah. Or there's no MPO because that's.
No,
those
of
two
the
programs-
CMAQ distribution or the STBG distribution.
Like, sorry. So what is the scenario that we're planning for?
So this is for the funding related to CMAQ distribution, right?
Yes.
Well, these last two items, CMAQ distribution and STBG, right?
Yes.
And so what you're doing is obligating the off-the-top money now so that that money can't be taken.
Yes.
But what you said is there is a risk that we may not get those larger funds if the administration pulls back the money, correct?
Yes.
And I'm saying, is that putting the cart before the horse? So you said, we're like buying copier paper before, I can't remember what you said, but my thing is, you may not have a copier, so you just bought paper for no copier.
So that's it's the very end. And maybe we offline, I don't,
It's fine.
okay.
Well,
I'm not
I-
going to sit here and belabor the point.
No, no, no.
I'm not even going to vote against it. I'm just trying to understand.
Well, then maybe this might help. So
Huh?
your staff, not as a staff item, but we are working on all sorts of like worst case scenarios and planning on how we could plan accordingly. And there's different options. Not all of them look and smell very good for how you could avoid. We have about 45 million on the books right now that could be rescinded. And then at the end of October, that probably grows up to maybe 60, 70 million that could be rescinded. It really depends what time of the year the rescission would happen. There's options available to us as I kind of laid out, and we are working on those options, and not just us, but it's going to take a group effort. So we're working with the other Valley MPOs on those options, and I'm also leading an effort in the state on these same options. Rest assured, we are aware of the risks and we're coming up with strategies for dealing with them. This is one of those easy strategies. It's like, hey, we know we're doing this. What if we went to the board and programmed it in April instead of in December? And what if we obligated it in May instead of January? It doesn't take care of a $90 million problem. It takes care of a $4.8 million problem.
Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? I think what Joe's looking at is, you're saying, okay, we have 96 million and you all are going to get a piece of the pie,
Yes,
maybe.
perhaps.
But the 800,000 for Stancog, you're grabbing now, and it's not to get it, not take that chance. You already have it. So I think what he's asking is, why can't you like 200,000 a year to so? There's no guarantee, because if you take the 800,000, you got it, but all that money is taken back. We have nothing, but you have your $800,000, and we have no projects.
Come on.
So, right. So that's a fairness question.
We're an MPO.
I know.
That's what we do.
I know, but you're taking $800,000 for no work.
Correct. Well, that's if there's
If-
no work, but like Jose Luis says, do you think the board is going to, I mean, he's trying to secure it, right? They're trying to secure it. Once you get an E76, if we don't know what this administration is going to do, we're all not just going to sit back and say, oh, my God, you guys just took our money. Well, we're probably going to fight for it if we rightfully can, to try to secure those fundings for those projects that you are all underway. What about if you're underway with your projects and now you're going to leave it halfway done? No. So, I think we're trying to do is trying to get ahead to try to secure
I think what he's looking at
all
is
of the money.
kind of fairness for everybody. So if we take the risk, you have the risk with us, that we're all in this together, I think, so that we take it by year, you take that $800,000 or $200,000 per year as we go along with us. And so take the money as needed per year to fund Blake and Jose.
Well, and I think that's
That's why I
kind of
think
how
they're
it
looking-
works, right, Jose Luis? I mean, you don't
no.
take it all
So
ahead.
this rescission, if it happened, rescinds money that we've had for the last decade that we've kind of been accumulating, not fully obligating. These years 27 through 2030 haven't happened yet. We're deciding
risk
how we're
now.
going to spend those funds.
Yeah.
If there was a rescission, we would still come to the board and recommend $1 million per year for Stannis crews, 200,000 per year for staff costs. It doesn't, like, we would still, even these projects coming up, we would still recommend all of them for programming. We would have just lost, I don't know, let's say we lost 20 million. We just lost 20 million, which means projects will happen 20 million slower over time, if that makes sense. We don't actually go deleting projects if we get a rescission. We just go, I guess they're happening later because we don't have enough money to do them sooner. And I understand this is sort of complicated, and I'm sorry. I'm trying to clarify. If it suits the committee, we could not program these dollars, and we could just have a large amount of money rescinded from our region. Again, our goal is to have no money rescinded. If you've heard my slogan, I never want to lose money. I don't even like losing like $10. We're gonna try to keep all our money.
Any other questions? Anything from the public?
There's no.
All right, yeah, I'll bring it back and entertain a motion or additional questions or comments.
Stanislaski, move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second, Riverbank.
I have a motion from Stan County and a second from Riverbank. Sorry, did I say that right? A motion from Stan County, a second from Riverbank. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now we'll move on to 7A through C, if I recall correctly. Any questions on 7A through C? All right, seeing none. Agenda item number 8, it's the Caltrans report. Is Caltrans on? They're not here? All right, item 9 is the executive report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Management and Finance. I just wanted to, again, just thank you and your staff for working with Jose Luis and Blake on all of these workshops. They had a series of them, so it is a lot of work, and from your staffs too, to take the time to do that. So I really want to appreciate the partnership that everyone has on this. There is, as we just mentioned, there are a lot of changes right now with our administration, and we're staying on top of this. I mean, every day it changes. So we're just trying to do our very best on that. There was a comment this morning. We had our meeting with our lobbyist. We wanted, and Jose Luis is already making phone calls with some of your staff. One of the questions that came up is it's earmark time. So even though things are unsettled over there, but there's our congressmen and our senators are still moving forward. So I know that some of the cities are going after some of those earmarks. We would like to kind of get a little list of what you're working on, just so if she wants to know, so she could advocate and help us, make sure that we have a full package coming from the Stanislaus region. With that, that concludes my report.
All right, we'll go on to member reports.
The question. Is there, well, a few months ago, I had a question on REAP and getting paid in time. And so I'm back in that again, where we submitted a REAP payment back in August of 24. We have not received it yet. To the tune of about $63,000.
The REAP,
Regional Early Action.
yeah,
Plan.
no, I know. So I'll check in. Jean could not be here today, but I'll check in with her because I know that was getting, Tom Course was working on that, and I thought that everyone was all settled because we're starting a new
Yeah.
3.2.0. So I'll look into that and make sure that everyone who needs to get paid is paid. I thought that we were finalizing that because there's final reports on that needed to be done and from all of you that I think that were being followed up. So, okay.
And the outreach or public relations team that you hired,
Yes.
when are they going to come and contact us in person?
So that's, and that's, Dave was bringing up the North County Corridor, and that's one of the things that we need to make sure that they're coordinated and they understand where they need to be. And I didn't know about that date, but now I do know. I'll check, again, Jean is leading that effort, so I will follow it up with them to make
Because
sure.
They've been on quite a while, haven't they?
Yeah, but they were finishing the annual report, and they were working with all of you to get that done, but now we really, yes, we really need to.
They haven't even come, I mean, at least for Sears, they haven't come out to Series. I don't know, have they come out to any of your cities?
I don't think they've gone out to anyone. They haven't been billing us for anything. They finished the annual report, right? You'll see that on your report on consent, it has so right now they're kind of like on hold. We're going to circle back with them. I need them to know about North County Corridor, and I want to know what they're going to be doing with all of you with your projects. And
Okay, I was under the impression they were going to be contacting us this year.
there's
person stuff.
yes,
Oh, okay.
but it's not happened with anyone. But I do need this North County Corridor. That's a big deal. So we really need to make sure that they are aware of that.
All right, we've been working on dates just last week, so.
Thank you.
Good job, programming team. Got good feedback from my staff on this whole competitive thing, so everybody's real happy about that. I don't know if you talked to your staff, but this seems to be going well. And we're applying for 2 million from Schiff, Padilla, and Gray for Colorado Rouse. Same ask. So that'll be very nice for us. Hopefully we get something. No ask from McClintock.
No comment. Any other member reports? I would just like to make a request on behalf of my policy board members that once again, that the Stancog budget, or as you call it, your work plan, come before this committee prior to adoption at the policy board for our review. That is a desire of our members. I would also like to, of my members, and on the long lines of Doug's request about the public information, I believe 600,000 was budgeted for this current fiscal year for their work. I would like to know how much has been expended to date, how much is projected to be expended by the end of the year, and also would like to know what happens with the remainder of that money if it's not fully spent. And that could be part of an information report next month if you.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that the reports is on your agenda. So it has that item and it has the, what's remaining, but we could provide an item to add to the agenda.
And to follow up on the budget, we did form a subcommittee that looked at the Stancog Management and Finance Committee bylaws. We did take a little hiatus, but we will get that back together, and I would hope we would complete it by the end of the year. Any other member reports? All right, I'll call us adjourned at 3:46.